Oh, folks, do you remember the joke about the young man who said that he was on the cutting edge of technology? What was the joke? His friend said, right, he mows the lawn at IBM. Now, an atom, A-T-O-M, was sitting on a park bench and he was dejected. And a man came along and he said to the atom, why are you dejected? And the atom said, I'm no longer an atom. I lost an electron. I'm an ion. And the man said, are you sure? And the atom says, I'm positive. A little girl and a little boy, sister and brother, were watching a video on the birth of Christ. The nativity scene. And the little boy said to the older sister, what is a virgin? And the little sister says, a virgin is a woman who eats all of her vegetables. We are moving now from Bryant Avenue in White Plains, about 6 blocks down the street to Longview Avenue in White Plains, a very pretty street, a very well-kept street, snappy residential street, and the apartment is beautiful. And I read in the newspaper where somebody was looking for people to be court monitors. What's a court monitor? They wanted people to go to the courts and watch the judges and report on the judges. Well, boy, do judges need that? And do judges need watching? And I always notice that a judge who was watched, it turns out to be a much better judge. And the judge who isn't any good is somebody who isn't watched. And so I applied for it, and I went to the meeting, and I got the instructions, and I was told I will watch the judges in the White Plains City Court. No, excuse me, the White Plains County Court and the Supreme Court of the state of New York, Westchester County. And immediately I was a favorite of the judges. Come up to my chambers and see some of my work. And it doesn't sound very good, does it? Well, I would visit them and listen to them for 20 minutes or so. And I would go monitor their courts, and I would write reports on them. The thing that I was looking for was, did they obey the 5th and 6th Amendment to the Constitution, realizing that courts are an open process? People are entitled to a public trial. You cannot lock the door in courts. You cannot lock out the public. The public has a right to be there. I think there might be some exceptions with family court. I'm not sure. Another thing you wanted to look for was the violation of constitutional rights. The First Amendment, the Fifth Amendment, the Fourth Amendment, the Sixth Amendment. You wanted to watch for that. And there was certainly a great deal of that in judges being unpleasant to people who went pro se, who didn't want a lawyer, they wanted to represent themselves. Judges tried to talk them into a court lawyer. And that was not right, because they had a right to be pro se. No, what were some of the cases? I would go to the Pace University Law School, which was in White Plains, and they would let us read the books for a while. And then after a while, they began to charge for that. That was Pace University in White Plains. And a great law library collection. One man ordered the ads on television, and agreed to send his check and pay, but he didn't do it. So he had to be sued in the Yonkers City Court, small claims, for breach of contract. Do you have some more prompts for me, dear buddy?
Yeah, do you want to talk more about your apartment, Greenridge, yard, garage, residential street?
Yes. It was a beautiful, Longview was a beautiful residential street, and it was a lovely apartment, and it was on the first floor, and it had a garage, and it was dirty. It was ill-kept for years. So a great deal of my time went into cleaning up that apartment and that cellar. It was disgusting. But by the time I'd finished several hours of hard labor, that place looked nice. Oh, that place looked very nice. And what else do we have, buddy?
Son of Gallicano?
Oh, yes, the owner of the apartment was a woman named Gallicano, and her son was a lawyer. What else do we have?
Estevez?
Oh, yes, Estevez. He was the owner of the apartment in Bryant Street, folks, and it was a sublet. He still paid the rent on it, but we sublet it from him. And he refused to give us our security deposit. So we took him to the White Plains City Court. And we were monitoring all kinds of courts, not only the Westchester County Court and the Westchester Supreme Court, but also the city courts, the lower courts, the municipal courts. Anything else?
Empty lots?
Oh, next door to where we lived on Greenridge Avenue was a series of empty lots, and they were idle, and there were no buildings on them, and the lots were fenced in, and they were loaded with litter, and that just bothered me terribly. I couldn't stand to have that litter. And so Franklin and I would do about 50 square yards every morning. We would pick up litter, and I think we picked up something like 45 bags of litter, and I think it took us almost a whole month. But we got that lot clean. And later, another tenant of the Greenridge Avenue property found a man in that lot. This was after we stopped cleaning it up. Found a man in that lot, and he had been stabbed to death. And who stabbed him, I don't know. They were thinking it was another homeless man. This man was homeless, and they were thinking it was another homeless man. What were we doing? Rescuing cats. Rescuing cats. Sally Cat. Greenridge Avenue was another very nice apartments. We always had lovely apartments. They were beautiful. Anything that you can prompt me on?
Highlands Church?
Oh, we were going to the church in the Highlands. A beautiful church. And it really was up on a hill in the Highlands. And it made people think of God just by being there. It was such a beautiful church. And it had a magnolia tree on the lawn in the front. Did you know that magnolia trees blossom twice a year, folks? They blossom in April, and then if you wait, they'll blossom again in July. We had been going to 4 churches, remember? The Memorial Church, Methodist Church in White Plains, the Rockefeller Church at Mechanical Hills, the church in the Highlands, and one other one. And we settled on the church in the Highlands. We joined that church.
Edit block from home?
What, dear?
Block from home? Edit block from home?
Oh, yes, and where was I doing a chat with Glendora? Well, I was reporting on the courts and what I saw in the courts. I was reporting on these different lawsuits that I brought, and there were quite a few. And the federal courthouse was only 2-3 blocks within walking distance from our house. And the White Plains City Court, and of course the Westchester County Court Tower. They were all right there. And they would send me all over the county to report on judges. I went way up to Poughkeepsie and reported on judges there, and then they wouldn't publish my report. And they wouldn't give me a reason why they wouldn't publish my report. So I took them to the Westchester Supreme Court. And that judge did a peculiar thing. Instead of being in court and running the court the way he should have been and taking care of this backload of cases, he was at the Connecticut School of Broadcasting learning how to be a TV performer. The Gannett newspaper found that out, and they reported on him. Well, he had a law clerk who I think was a little on the mental side, and he wrote the screwiest and the most insulting decision. And so I picketed that judge right outside the county courthouse in White Plains. And that judge called the county police. And when the county police came and tried to stop me from picketing, I told them, you don't have any jurisdiction. I am on the city streets of White Plains. The county has no jurisdiction. And one of the policemen said, oh, gee, and then they both left. Anything else comes to mind?
Yonkers, small claims?
Yeah, we did Yonkers small claim. Did you win? Yes, we won. The man had to pay the amount of money.
Okay, Cablevision, editorial control.
There's a good one. Scott Lord ordered his ads on TV. I went out to Long Island and I made his commercial, and it was underground lawn sprinklers. You know, ever seen those? You actually dig up the soil and you run pipes, and these pipes had holes in them, and when you turn the water on, your lawn got watered from underneath. Now, isn't that a great idea? Well, he bought the ads, and I negotiated for the airtime. I negotiated for the copy and got it approved. Everything was ready, and he didn't pay. It was something like $2,000. And so we had to bring him to court, and we won a decision right away on that he had to pay the $2,000. Well, he still didn't pay. And this went on month after month after month after month. And he kept thinking that I would give up, but I never did get up. We kept going back to Long Island, pursuing that court action, and he went bankrupt. He thought that he could get out of it that way. Well, that didn't work either, because we pursued the bankruptcy, and finally we were paid 70 cents on a dollar. 70 cents on a dollar is phenomenal for bankruptcy. And so that was something like $3,000, and I gave a third of it to Brad Sachs. Not that Brad Sachs, the lawyer, did much, but I kind of liked Brad Sachs, and so I gave him that money. And then there was the Franklin Chemical suit for breach of contract after they gave us the $67,000, remember? And then they canceled the check. Well, I sued them. Where? In federal court in Manhattan. And I was in the courtroom, and the courtroom was empty. Franklin and I were there alone. Brad Sachs and the Franklin Chemical lawyer were out in the hall somewhere, and the judge came in. And the judge was annoyed that no lawyers were there. And he said, well, where are they? And I said, well, they're out in the hall talking it over. You want me to go get them? He said, the judge says, no, that's all right. And within 20 minutes, the judge ruled in my favor and gave me something like $3,000 on that suit. A man had a broadcasting school teaching people how to do commercials on TV, and my contract with these people said that they couldn't use the commercial I made for them with anybody but Glendora. Well, this man took my commercial that I made of him and put it on Channel 9 without my permission and without my doing the business. So we had to sue him, and that was paid about, I think that was another $3,000. How we doing, honey?
Sue Fund for Modern Courts.
Yeah, we did that.
Okay.
Did you get any collect from that? No collection from that.
1980 Lincoln, only car.
Yeah, the only car we had then was a 1980 Lincoln Continental Mark VI. The beautiful car with the all the computers in it and all the estimated time of arrival and the 6 speakers of sound and the opera lights and all the heavy carpeting and all that beautiful upholstery. And we were driving into New Jersey and into Connecticut trying to find business, selling a little package of $300. One ad. Isn't that meager? But that's how bad we found the economy to be. Next, honey.
Vegan?
Yeah, I was vegan, very, very strictly vegan. And my cats were vegan. They were eating Worthington Foods, which was vegetarian, with a brewer's yeast on top of it.
Noisy children?
Oh, some children out in the courtyard started playing basketball up against the wall of our house. That was in the bedroom, which we used as an office, and they were banging this basketball up against the wall of our house. It was a strange thing to do, don't you think? And it kept pounding, and so I started making a video of it. And I tried to stop it, and that made it worse. And this little kid would gather up children from, they weren't bus children, they walked to school. And he would gather up kids, 10 or 12 of them, to come down to the courtyard and bang that basketball up against the wall. Well, it turned into a terrible fight. And the parents endorsed the bad children. And then they started vandalism against us, unbelievable amount of vandalism, took a key and ran it along the side of the 1980 Lincoln, ruining the paint job that just cost $1,000. And down our locker, down in the basement, opening it up and strewing the files all over the floor. The vandalism was terrible, and we kept reporting it on TV, all the bad things they did, but they just kept on doing bad things. Finally, that resolved itself. One family moved to Maryland. The boy that was causing this, they moved to Maryland, and another family upstairs, they bought a house. And then the third family stayed there. Anyway, that resolved itself.
Continental TV?
Continental TV moved my program. It was on a Saturday afternoon, and they moved it to some other place that was not as good and didn't get as much audience. And I didn't think that they had a right to do that, decrease the audience, and so they got sued in the White Plains of federal court. But the worst of all was Cablevision. Cablevision Long Island. Glendora was saying that Scott Lord, remember the underground lawn sprinkler person? They were letting him operate his underground lawn sprinkling business in Nassau County without a Nassau County license, a consumer affairs license. And I took exception to that, and I was reporting it on TV, and then I got a call on Friday night, just before the program was to go on to TV in Long Island, Nassau County. And it was a Cablevision worker who said that we're not going to cable cash your program any longer. We believe that talking about a personal lawsuit on public access TV is not suitable for TV. And at that time, the personal lawsuit against O.J. Simpson was on every TV set in the United States. And so that was a shock, and I recorded it. I recorded everything that he said, that he didn't think it was suitable for cable TV. And then I called the FCC, Federal Communications Commission, and I told them that my program had been taken off because the cable operator didn't like the contents. And guess what? FCC, a man there, anonymously, but very smart and very succinctly said, title, what was it? Title 42 U.S. Code something, Section 32(2)E. And I looked it up, and sure enough, it said that no cable operator can exercise editorial control over public access TV. Well, I had brought the suit in the federal court in White Plains, and the judge ruled in favor of Cablevision. And then I took it to the U.S. Court of Appeals in Manhattan for the First District. And the judge was overturned. Now that was a huge victory. That was a huge victory for a pro se, somebody who refused to have a lawyer, somebody who insisted upon doing her own litigation. And guess what? The U.S. Court of Appeals overturned the judge. Well, that was great. And I had also brought the suit in the Westchester Supreme Court. And the Westchester Supreme Court, under Donald Silverman, ruled the plaintiff had a statutory right to be on TV and must be returned to TV. And in the meantime, the New York State Cable TV Commission was watching the whole thing and wondering if their rules were going to be upheld in court, and they were. Well, this was all over the place. This was in the New York Times. It was in the law journals. It was everywhere. And that was one huge victory.
Okay, you are at 24 minutes right now. So I'm going to stop it now.
Good, we're almost through.